One island, two cultures could be the subtitle to any article you may have seen about Haiti and the Dominican Republic of late. Tensions have been brewing between the sovereign nations for some time now, and things seem to have come to a head when the Constitutional Court of the Dominican Republic retroactively stripped citizenship of anyone whose ancestors migrated to the DR from its Haitian neighbor. That decision came down in 2013, and as of February 1st of this year, the clock stopped ticking for any Dominicans of Haitian descent to prove their ancestors legally migrated to the Dominican Republic. Now, I think that deadline has been extended. Right. We just got a
We'll
update.
get into that in a second. But as you can imagine, this Constitutional Court decision has far-reaching repercussions. They've been felt as far as our fair borough, which is home to thousands of Haitian descent. One of those folks was recently elected to the New York State Assembly, becoming the very first Haitian American woman elected in New York City. She's Assembly Member Rodneyse Bichat. Thanks for joining us again today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we'd also like to welcome back Nanaj Raoul. She is the director of Haitian Women for Haitian Refugees. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me.
And Sophia Cantave, was that good?
Kantav.
Cantave. Sophia Cantave is here, and she's forgiving. And she's from the International Campaign to End Apartheid in the Dominican Republic. Thank you for being here, ladies.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed,
Absolutely.
thank you. So can we start with Resolution K37? Tell us about it and explain it to us.
Hey, so Resolution K376 is a resolution that myself and two other members, Kimberly Jean-Pierre, Assemblywoman, and Assemblywoman Michael Solage, thought that it would be good to put together to outline what's going on in the Dominican Republic against Dominican-born citizens with Haitian ancestry, and to kind of outline the rulings, the court rulings and the laws, the constitution laws that are stripping a lot of these Dominican-born citizens of their nationality and leaving them stateless. We felt that for a very long time, when it comes to injustice and human rights issues in a lot of these islands, they're not projected on the state level, and we felt this was a good time to definitely voice how we feel as the Assembly, and to say that we're condemning what's going on in Dominican Republic against the Dominican-born citizens of Haitian descent. This resolution was obviously controversial. This is the first that has happened in the state of New York, given that New York has the highest populated Dominican Americans as well as Haitian Americans in the United States. And it was controversial because a number of people felt that they didn't want to condemn a government of which members were citizens, were sitting there in the body,
Yeah.
right? And it was a problem. It was a problem because the vast majority of the people, Jewish, white, black, African American, many Latinas, felt that there wasn't anything wrong with that. Meaning there wasn't anything wrong with the resolution.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, wait a second.
Yeah, nothing wrong with
Okay.
the resolution. So if you notice on the resolution, we have pretty much the majority of our conference who supported this,
Yeah.
right? And again, this resolution outlines the ruling that happened in 2013, which again said that if you are of a foreign ancestry, you in the DR, you are no longer considered a citizen.
Right.
But the criteria was crazy. I think you had to have been born in 1929 or something like that. I mean, can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, so the ruling came down if your ancestors came to DR before, I think, 1929.
Yeah.
So 4 generations essentially were ruled to be non-Dominican citizens, so that even if you can trace it back to 1929, you would have to go back that far to be considered a citizen of the Dominican Republic. So that's what made it outrageous, because, you know, you can only imagine if we had to say that to people who migrated to this country, that their 4 generations would not count as U.S. citizens.
Right.
So So it's pretty much that's what the Dominican government is asking that these Dominican citizens accept as and it's unfair because we would never accept it over here, and it goes against the international human rights courts, of course,
Okay.
because where you're born is where you are born, and a lot of these people are born, they have birthrights that are
So-
being violated.
Nanaj, if we were even to accept this premise and listen to the court's ruling and walk through these generations to somehow show the documentation that my people have been here since then, that would be one thing. That's one hurdle to clear. But it seems that the line is always moving. The sort of finish line gets very squidgy the closer people even come to going through this ridiculous process.
Well, the process, first of all, they didn't have the infrastructure to
Right.
To even
Right.
verify one way or
process
the
the
other.
folks that
Yeah.
they deemed would be eligible. And then there were different categories that were set up. They had these Group A's and Group B's. There was one for the President Medina's, the one that he signed into law, 16914, and on May 23rd of 2014, was subsequently a response to the earlier ruling, and it was sort of like disguised as some sort of humanitarian effort. And that was saying, out of the earlier one was saying that over 250,000 people, according to the government, the Dominican government's numbers, and I'm sure it's a lot more, would be rendered stateless. And his response months later was signing this law that's saying that, okay, well, about 10,000 of those folks can apply for citizenship. They might qualify.
So less than 10%.
Less than 10%. And then even for that 10%, they weren't set up to process folks, you know.
So let's talk about, all right, now you're stateless, then what? Were they planning to then deport people, and deport them where? Is my question.
So,
Go ahead.
so the plan was to start deporting people in just a few weeks, June 15th.
Deport them where? Because if you tried to send them to Haiti, I would
Right.
say, if I were part of the Haitian government, I would say, what do you mean? I don't even know who you are.
Right.
That person may not even have family in Haiti at that point,
So-
may not speak the language. So,
Sure.
Many do not. They
Right.
do not.
Yeah, so that, we've been down on the border and we've documented some of the deportations. We met many people that never stepped foot in Haiti before
Okay.
that have been deported.
So then let's get to the root of what this really is then, because I personally have been following this issue, and I've read articles and seen videos of everything from lynchings to people being beaten in the street. People, just for this context, I am calling them Dominicans of Haitian descent, so we know who we're talking about. But them being brutalized in the streets of the Dominican Republic, what's really the heart of this?
Well, at the heart of it, I think there is a anti-Haitianism, and really that anti-Haitianism becomes anti-Black. And I mean, that's really what we can't get around that, because
Right.
it is about being anti-racist, but it's anti-Black and anti-dark skin. And so that for a lot of people, that one of the things that happened, it's not the first time. We know there was the massacre in 1937 that happened with, like, who is a Haitian? And usually that who is a Haitian is a dark-skinned person. Right. So that the attacks become about, appearance, what do you look like? So then the Haitians then, and of course if you have a Haitian-sounding name, which is, usually it's going to be more of a French-sounding surname than a Spanish-sounding surname. Yeah. So that's part of the issue that has been part of the long ongoing, but we know that, well, and at the same time, that's been a part of the Caribbean story.
Sure.
So that one it's heightened even more so because of the, two nations sharing one island and having a porous border. And of course that you have development happening on one side more, and long-held contracts between two governments to send workers, right, to send workers to cut cane, and then once you've gone over the border to cut cane, not, even the payments that they were due to get, they didn't receive.
Right.
But if you settle in the batailles, you have children, those children become products of that society, they speak the language, they do not have a Haitian accent, they have a Spanish accent, they are part of the culture, even though they have ancestry that they trace to Haiti, and they're proud of it, but the fact remains what they know is the Dominican Republic.
So this seems to be 2015's version of apartheid.
Right.
So on that front, we know what happened the last time that America got involved with trying to end apartheid. It took Congress overriding Ronald Reagan to actually get the restrictions or to divest
Embargoes
the
and
sanctions.
sanctions.
So what is it going to take to move some more folks on this list and even rise this to the national level?
So what we're doing, our strategy is to work on a state-by-state level. We have called to the U.S. Congress to reintroduce the resolution that was put forth in 2014 so that we can do something. We're calling on the United Nations, we're calling on OAS. Currently, we have made some progress with other states. Providence, the city of Providence, Rhode Island, Providence have did a resolution. They were the first. We were, the first in the state of New York. New Jersey right now, Irvington, New Jersey just passed a resolution. The city of New York is looking into it. Florida.
Resolutions to saying
to
what?
Saying the same thing. Like,
Okay.
we condemn this. We are asking the U.S. Congress to move on to a resolution. We're calling President Obama, Homeland Security, to do something about it, and also OAS. We are looking for some type of sanctioning to happen, because at the end of the day, people need to realize that a rule, the ruling violated the law. It also violated the Constitution that was changed in 2010, which says that you can't go retroactive. Anybody before 2010 is still a Dominican-born citizen.
Right.
And we're supposed to cancel that vacation to the DR this
and
weekend
this is
as
where
well.
Dinaj, you want to talk about. We have been trying to. This is what talking about the
On a human
grassroots
level.
Yeah, and that when we go to that ultra cheap vacation, it's cheap for a reason. There are people being exploited. It's usually Haitian workers, people of Haitian descent. And, at the lowest sector of the economy, doing that kind of labor that makes these cheap vacations possible. We have to take a stand on that level. And we are asking, as the campaign, the international campaign to end apartheid in the DR, we're asking people, especially now that the summer season is ramping up, to not travel to the DR, to boycott, to take a stand, to not put your dollars, especially your recreational dollars, into a system that is going out of its way to stigmatize only one group out of all the people that they label as immigrants to the DR, because it's really the rulings targeted people of Haitian descent. That's what I think people need to understand. They said all immigrants, but it's really people of Haitian descent.
Right.
And I think it's important to note that there have been many efforts to take these cases, individual cases, to international courts, the UN, Inter-American Court, and after 7 or 8 years, they won.
Yeah.
But these things are not enforceable. These courts are not
I think
enforceable.
it's very difficult. The process of approaching things from a political standpoint just takes time. But immediately, what's being done within the community? So, for instance, are there people in the Dominican community here in New York kind of outraged and speaking against it, or trying to build bridges with the Haitian American community? Is there anything like that going on?
Before you get into that, I want to just piggyback
Sorry.
on that question and add to it to say, who benefits from this?
Right.
Like, is there a person in the DR who's going to have like some land grab if we get rid of all these black
Right.
Haitians? Like, what is the benefit
stake.
analysis of doing this?
The fact is, they don't want to really get rid of the Haitians. They just,
cheap
they want to limit their ability to participate. They don't want them to run for office. They don't want them to participate in society, but they need their labor. So they will always go. There's always been trafficking, and these deportations have been in practice for decades now. But this ruling and this law simply, made it legal.
Right.
But these are very brutal deportations that involve women and girls being raped in the process by military folks, deporting farm workers that have been working somewhere for a month, and when it's time for them to get paid, they have them rounded up and deported. This has been going on for decades
I'd like
now.
to add, we have been working with We Are All Dominicans. We have been working with groups like the Coalition of Dominicans Against Racism. Another thing that you must notice is that the Dominican Americans here, they have dual citizenship. So really, they can make an impact. And there's a lot of Dominicans, I'm just going to throw out maybe 50% who are completely against what's happening.
Right.
So they can influence what go over there. And in the State Assembly, we are forming an Hispaniola task force to address those issues. I will be going to my colleagues' environment and neighborhoods to listen to the feedback of a lot of the Dominican Americans. We have a lot of Dominican American leaders, like in unions and so forth, who had stand with us, who are completely against us. So we have a lot of Dominicans who are with us against what's going on in Dominican Republic.
Okay. Okay. Any last words, ladies?
Yeah,
We're wrapping up.
absolutely. I want to stress the importance of the boycott, because whenever these UN cases have been won, they haven't been, the Dominican government has not conformed, and their fear has always been that the publicity of these human rights abuses is going to affect their tourism. They have the largest tourism market in the Caribbean. So I think it's really important for folks to know, as Sophia mentioned earlier, that these are really blood vacations when you're going to the Dominican Republic. There's a lot of sexual tourism that folks do.
Why aren't people hearing about this outside of places like BK Live, where we have actual discussions? But it has every single element. It has the brutality, the crazy sexism, the racism.
Right. The
Why is this so
lynching.
buried?
Yeah, literal lynchings.
It's because we're black. And
Yeah.
for a very long time, as you know, people of Haitian descent has gone through a lot of turmoil, just a lot of tribulations, and we were almost swept under the rug, very similar to this resolution. All of a sudden, it became a problem. No one, they didn't want to push it. And why is that? And so we asked ourselves, why do the world hate Haitian people? Do the world hate Haitian people? Because this is not only happening in the Dominican Republic. We have cases that are similar that are happening over, in other islands. And so we don't want to set a precedence. And one thing we want to make people know is that this is a Dominican issue. These are Dominicans.
Right.
These are not Haitian.
Right.
Let's keep that intact. Amnesty International has been working closely with us. We want to encourage everyone to go to the website, to amnestyusa.org/drcrisis to sign a letter. If we get thousands of letters, we feel that we'll be able to push Congress to to do something, and the OAS to do something. So we're right now organizing big media campaigns. We are working with the different states. So there's a number of different movements that are taking place parallel.
Okay, wonderful. Ladies, thank you all for joining
Thanks
us
for shedding
today.
some light.
We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.